The judgment chamber floated between star systems like a crystal moon. Inside, Ambassador Marcus Webb stood alone on a platform that hung above an endless drop of starlight, round him rising in circles that stretched higher than any building. On Earth sat representatives from 847 alien species. This was the Galactic Council, the governing body that ruled over thousands of worlds across the known galaxy. Marcus had been standing here for 3 hours. His legs ached, his throat was dry, but he kept his face calm and his hands steady behind his back. He knew that every species in this chamber was watching him, judging him, deciding the fate of his entire world. The being that spoke first looked like liquid silver poured into the shape of something alive. His voice came through speakers embedded in the walls, translated into every language known to the galaxy. Humanity has been part of our galactic community for 12 years. In those 12 years, you have committed 1,847 violations of the Harmony Accords. Marcus said nothing. He had been ordered to stay silent until asked a direct question. Another alien rose from its seat. This one looked like a pile of red crystals, shaped roughly like a person. Angry red light pulsed through its body as it spoke. You hide things from us. All civilized species share their military capabilities openly. You do not. You maintain sealed facilities on 43 worlds. You conduct experiments you refuse to explain. This is the behavior of a threat. More aliens joined in. They projected images into the air above Marcus. Pictures of human military bases. Research facilities with locked doors, encrypted communications that nobody else could read, ships that went to places nobody else could track. We value privacy and security matters, Marcus finally said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. The word privacy echoed through hundreds of translators. The sound that came back was like disgust. Apparently the concept offended them. A massive six-legged creature that looked like it could tear apart a tank stood up. Its species had conquered 18 star systems before joining the council. We have been patient with young species before, but humanity is different. Your expansion rate is unprecedented. Your military spending is excessive. Your secrecy is unacceptable. These are the signs of a species that will destroy the peace we have maintained for 6,000 years. The silver being spoke again. The council has made its decision. Humanity is classified as a grade 7 threat species. You have 72 hours to open all classified facilities for inspection. You will disarm all prohibited weapons. Will submit to council oversight of all military programs. If you refuse, we will quarantine your solar system. You resist quarantine, we will take corrective military action. Marcus looked up at the 847 faces staring down at him. Some looked curious. Some looked angry. Most looked like they did not care at all about what happened to one more primitive species. I need to contact my government, Marcus said. Request denied, the silver being replied. Your government already has the ultimatum. We're informing you as a courtesy. You will remain here until Earth responds. Guards that looked like walking shadows took Marcus from the chamber. They brought him to a small room with no windows and a door that sealed behind him with a hiss. He sat on a bench built for a body shape very different from human and waited. Back on Earth, the message reached the Global Defense Council within minutes. Director Helena Cross read it in a fortified command center buried deep beneath a mountain range. Around her sat military commanders, intelligence chiefs, and the leaders of programs that had consumed secret budgets for decades. Programs that nobody outside this room knew existed. General Thomas Reich commanded something called Project Warden. He asked the question everyone was thinking. Do we comply? Lena looked at the demands again. Open all facilities. Submit to inspection. Surrender weapons. Accept oversight. She thought about what was hidden in those facilities. The programs that started right after humanity first met aliens. The things they built when they realized the universe was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The things they did when they understood that every other species had already fought their wars, already evolved past their survival instincts, already forgotten what it meant to be prey. Humanity remembered. Humanity had never stopped being prey animals who learned to fight back. And humanity had prepared. No, Helena said. We refuse their demands. Send the message immediately. Admiral Patricia Voss leaned forward. "They will send warships." "I know," Helena replied. Her face showed no fear. "That is exactly what we have been preparing for." As Earth transmitted its refusal, the Galactic Council went into emergency session. The vote was unanimous. A military fleet would go to Earth's solar system to enforce compliance. The fleet would have 3,000 ships. It would be led by the silver beings called Valorians, supported by the six-legged warriors called Visians, and backed by 40 other species. It was more military force than had been used in any single operation for 3,000 years. They were certain it would be enough to make humanity surrender. On Earth, Helena made another call. This one went to facilities scattered across the solar system, hidden bases built into asteroids, underground complexes on Mars, stations buried beneath the ice of distant moons, places that did not appear on any map the Council had ever seen. "Wake them up," she said into the communication device. "All of them. Every single one." In those hidden facilities, lights came on in chambers that had been dark for years. Sealed doors opened with the hiss of escaping pressure, and inside those chambers, thousands of figures began to move. They had been waiting in suspended animation, waiting for the day when Earth would need them, waiting for the moment when humanity would have to reveal what it had become. They were called Wardens. And they were about to show the galaxy that humanity had been preparing for this moment since the day they first left their homeworld and saw how hostile the universe really was. Marcus Webb sat in his detention cell, counting the hours until the fleet would arrive at Earth. He smiled despite himself. The Council thought they were bringing overwhelming force to intimidate a primitive species. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The trap was set. The monsters were awake. And humanity was about to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. The 72-hour countdown had begun. The Council fleet arrived at the edge of human space exactly 72 hours after the ultimatum expired. Commander Velroth led the armada from the bridge of the largest Valorian warship. He had overseen 18 enforcement actions in his career. None had required more than a show of force. The primitive species always surrendered when they saw what they faced. He studied the sensor readings of Earth's defenses, orbital weapon platforms, a small fleet of basic warships, energy shields around major cities. Nothing impressive. Nothing that would last more than an hour against Council forces. "Send the final warning," Velroth ordered. The message broadcast across all frequencies. "Comply immediately or face forced submission." Earth's response came from Director Helena Cross herself. Her face appeared on every screen in the Council fleet. "Your fleet is not welcome here. Leave our system now or accept the consequences." The alien crews laughed. What consequences could a primitive species possibly deliver? Velroth gave the order to advance. The 3,000 ships moved forward in perfect formation, weapons charging but not yet firing. This was meant to terrify, not destroy. That was when everything changed. Across 12 locations in the solar system, massive structures began to open. They had been hidden inside asteroids, disguised as mining operations, buried beneath the surfaces of lifeless moons. The Council fleet's sensors had passed over them dozens of times and seen nothing unusual. Now they were revealed. And what came out was not what anyone expected. "Commander," the tactical officer said, confusion clear in his voice. "We are detecting biological signatures. Thousands of them. No ships. No protective suits. Just organic entities moving into space." Velroth checked the readings himself. It was impossible. Living beings could not survive in the void. They would freeze instantly, suffocate, die from radiation exposure within seconds. But these entities were not dying. They were accelerating, moving faster than any ship in his fleet. "Battle stations," Velroth shouted. The first wave of entities reached the forward Council ships, and the impossible became real. They attacked the vessels with their bare hands. They tore through shields that could stop nuclear weapons. They moved between ships so fast that targeting systems could not lock onto them. One of the entities landed on the hull of a Vaxian destroyer right in front of an external camera. Velroth finally got a clear look at what they were fighting. It looked human. To arms, 2 legs, a head. But something was terribly wrong. Its skin was dark as space itself, covered in patterns that glowed with internal light. Its eyes burned like stars. When it punched the hole, the reinforced metal crumpled like paper. The entity tore an opening in the armor and disappeared inside the ship. The Vaxian crew, warriors who had conquered planets, tried to stop it. They failed. The creature moved through their ship like death itself, destroying weapons and forcing the crew to evacuate. "What are they?" Velroth whispered. On Earth, Marcus Webb was brought before an emergency council session. The Silver Prime demanded answers, its liquid metal body rippling with agitation. "What have you done? What are those things?" Marcus stood before them. This time his expression was different, harder. "You wanted to know our secrets? You demanded we show you what we have been building. So now you know. Those creatures are not human." "They are," Marcus said. "Very human. Let me tell you a story. 50 years ago, humanity sent colony ships to distant systems. Some of those ships never came back. Some came back with everyone dead. We learned that the galaxy is not the peaceful place your council pretends it is. We found ruins of dead civilizations. We encountered hostile species before we ever met you. We realized that we were alone in a dangerous universe." The chamber went silent. Marcus continued. "So we started Project Warden 30 years ago. We took volunteers, soldiers, explorers, people who wanted to protect humanity. We exposed them to conditions that should kill, radiation levels that should destroy cells in seconds. We used gene therapy derived from the most extreme environments in the galaxy. We integrated technology at the cellular level. We pushed human consciousness beyond its normal limits." "So that is impossible," a crystalline delegate said. "Such modifications would destroy the subject. It would destroy your species," Marcus agreed. "But humans are different. We evolved on what you classify as a death world. A planet so hostile that most council species would die within days without protection. We developed extreme genetic flexibility just to survive our own home." Project Warden amplified what was already there. He pulled up images from Earth's history. Humans surviving in deserts that reached 130 degrees, humans living at altitudes where oxygen was scarce, humans adapting to frozen wastelands, humans pushing their bodies to limits that would kill most species. "We did not build weapons," Marcus said. "We built guardians. We call them wardens. They are still human. They still think like us, feel like us. But they can survive and fight in environments that would destroy anyone else." On the battle display, the wardens continued their assault. They were not trying to kill. Every ship they attacked, they disabled and forced the crew to evacuate first. They destroyed weapons, but spared lives. Surgical, precise, terrifying. "How many?" the Prime asked. 3,000 currently deployed, Marcus answered. 7,000 more in training. The number seemed small compared to the Council's billions of soldiers. But every warden was fighting at the level of an entire battalion. "The Council fleet was losing ships faster than they could retreat, Commander." Velroth made a decision no Council officer had made in millennia. Full retreat. All ships fall back to the outer system. The fleet withdrew. The wardens did not pursue. They took up defensive positions around Earth and its colonies, waiting. Back in the Council chamber, the Prime had to make a choice. Escalate and send more fleets, risking catastrophic losses. Or negotiate with this species that had just proven it could fight the entire galaxy. The Vaxian warcaller stood. He was old, scarred from 100 battles. "I have commanded forces for 70 years. I have fought the finest warriors of 12 species. I tell you now, those things humanity created are beyond anything we have faced. They fight like something we forgot existed in this galaxy. They fight like predators," other delegates argued. Some wanted total war. Others recognized reality. Humanity had revealed a capability that changed the balance of power. "We will negotiate," the Prime finally said. "But humanity will pay a price for this deception," Marcus said. "Humanity will pay nothing. You came to our system with warships. You threatened our world. We defended ourselves. If there is a price to be paid, the council will pay it. The chamber erupted in outrage, but Marcus stood firm. Behind him, displayed on every screen, the wardens waited in perfect formation around Earth. Helena watched from Earth's command center. "Get ready," she told her staff. "They will agree to negotiate. And when they do, we will make demands of our own." The galaxy was about to learn that humanity did not ask for permission, and humanity did not surrender. The negotiations took place in neutral space. In a temporary station built specifically for this meeting, Director Helena Cross led the human delegation. The Galactic Council sent the Prime, the vaccine warcaller, and representatives from 12 major species. The wardens remained visible throughout the solar system, a constant reminder of what would happen if negotiations failed. Helena sat across from the Prime in the negotiation chamber. The liquid metal being seemed smaller somehow, less confident than when it had delivered the ultimatum to Marcus. "We need to understand how you achieved this," the Prime said. "Our best scientists have studied biological enhancement for thousands of years. Nothing we have attempted comes close to what you have accomplished." Helena looked at Dr. Amara Singh, the lead scientist for Project Warden. Amara stepped forward and activated a holographic display. "Humanity is unique," Amara began. "We evolved on a death world. Earth is classified as a Category 9 planet, one of the most hostile environments known to support intelligent life. We evolved under constant threat. Our biology reflects that reality. Other species come from hostile worlds," a delegate argued. "True," Amara agreed. "But most species left that origin behind once they achieved space travel. They modified their worlds to be comfortable. They engineered themselves for longer lives and easier existence. Humanity never did. We still live on our death world. We still maintain the genetic flexibility that let our ancestors survive." She brought up genetic sequences, showing the differences between humans and other species. Every human carries dormant genetic code, survival mechanisms from our evolution. Most humans never activate these sequences. Project Warden learned how to trigger them deliberately. The display showed the process: controlled exposure to extreme radiation, gene therapy targeting specific sequences, cybernetic enhancement at the cellular level, neural optimization that expanded consciousness. "The success rate?" the warcaller asked. 82% complete the full transformation," Amara answered. "The rest achieve partial enhancement and serve in other capacities. We have never lost a volunteer. Every failure was anticipated and managed." "You still created weapons," the Prime said. "We created defenders," Helena corrected. "And we did it because we had to. Do you know what the first human explorers found when we left our system, before we ever met your council?" She activated another display. Images of dead cities on lifeless worlds, ruins of civilizations that reached the stars and then vanished. Evidence of ancient weapons, dormant artificial intelligence systems, cosmic threats that the Council either did not know about or chose to ignore. "We found 43 dead civilizations in what you call the Dark Zones," Helena said. "We did not know those regions were forbidden. We just knew they were dangerous. So we prepared. We built defenses. We created the Wardens. Because we realized something about your Council," she leaned forward. "Your peace is maintained through force, through the threat of unified military action against any species that steps out of line, but that only works against species who are part of your system. What happens when something from outside threatens you? What happens when your harmony accords mean nothing?" The warcaller's expression changed. "Recognition. You're prepared for wars we think cannot happen." "We prepared for every war," Helena said, "including the one you tried to start." The Prime was quiet for a long moment. "What do you want?" "Recognition," Helena answered. "Formal acknowledgement that humanity has the right to self-determination. No oversight. No inspections. No interference in our affairs. That is unprecedented." "Then we will be the first," Helena said calmly. "Or we can continue our demonstration of power," the delegates argued among themselves. Some species wanted to fight, to crush humanity before it became too strong. Others recognized the mathematics, The Wardens had disabled 200 ships in 6 hours. If the Council committed to total war, they might win eventually. But the cost would be catastrophic. Ambassador Marcus spoke up. The Council claims to value peace. Prove it. Accept that one species chooses to defend itself differently than you would prefer. We are not asking to join your military command. We are not asking for Council resources. We are asking to be left alone. Smaller delegate, representing a species that had been conquered before joining the Council, spoke quietly. Perhaps that is not unreasonable. The Council has forced many species into compliance. Perhaps one species should be allowed to maintain independence. The argument continued for hours. Helena remained patient. She knew the longer they talked, the more some delegates would start to see reason. Then something changed. Marcus received an urgent message on his communication device. His face went pale as he read it. "Director," he said quietly, "we have a situation." Elena excused herself and joined Marcus in a secure room. "What happened?" "Long-range sensors detected something emerging from the dark zones," Marcus said. "Something massive. It matches energy signatures we found in those dead civilization ruins." Helena felt her blood turn cold. "You are saying something is coming," Marcus confirmed. "Something from the regions we found, and it is heading toward Council space." They returned to the negotiation chamber. Helena interrupted the ongoing debate. "I need to share information with the Council. Something that changes everything we are discussing." She explained what human sensors had detected. The Council delegates were skeptical at first. Humanity could be manufacturing a threat to gain leverage, but then their own monitoring stations confirmed it. Something huge had emerged from the quarantined dark zones, something moving with clear purpose through space. Its energy signature was on scales usually reserved for stars. The Prime's liquid form rippled with what might have been fear. "The silence has ended." "What silence?" Helena demanded. 3,000 years ago, the Prime explained, the Council faced a threat from beyond known space, an intelligence that consumed entire systems. We called it the Devourer. It took 300 species and millions of ships to drive it back. We sealed the dark zones after that victory. Nothing has emerged in 3,000 years. We hoped it was gone forever. The Warcaller stood, all 6 legs tense. "It seems humanity's timing is fortunate. You created warriors for a war you did not know was coming. Now that war has found us," Helena looked at the tactical display showing both the Council fleet near Earth and the approaching threat from the dark zones. Mind raced through possibilities. How long until it reaches inhabited systems? 3 weeks, the Prime said. Perhaps less if it accelerates. Helena made her decision. Then we do not have time for extended negotiations. Here are our terms. The Council recognizes complete human autonomy. No restrictions. No oversight. In exchange, Earth commits the Wardens to defend Council space against this threat. Your warriors number only 10,000, a delegate objected. The Devourer required the entire galaxy to defeat. You have not seen what we can really do, Helena said. What you saw was a demonstration. A controlled display. You want to see what Wardens can do when we unleash them completely? When we are not worried about avoiding casualties? Give us a real enemy, Prime considered. Every moment they delayed, the Devourer came closer. Every moment they spent trying to control humanity was a moment wasted. The Council accepts your terms, the Prime finally said. Humanity will have autonomy. In exchange, you will commit your forces to this defense. Agreed, Helena said. She turned to Marcus. Send the message to Earth. Full mobilization. Every Warden, every asset. We are going to war. As the delegates filed out, the Warcaller approached Helena. I hope your confidence is justified. The Devourer destroyed civilizations more advanced than humanity. It has existed for millennia. Your Wardens are impressive, but this will be different than facing our fleet. Helena met his gaze. You are right. This will be different, because your fleet was trying not to kill us. We will not extend the same courtesy to the Devourer. The war humanity was bred for had finally arrived. The Devourer reached the first. Inhabited system 58 hours after detection. The world belonged to the Telion species, organic engineers who had never known war. Their planet was covered in gardens and living architecture. 3 billion souls lived in harmony with their environment. When the Devourer arrived, it did not attack in any conventional sense. It simply began to absorb. Its massive form descended on the planet like a storm front. Organic and mechanical tendrils reached down from its body, touching the surface. The Telions tried to evacuate. They had 6 hours before their world was gone. Not destroyed, consumed. Every plant, every animal, every person who did not escape, all of it absorbed into the Devourer's mass. The Council's emergency response fleet arrived to find a dead world stripped of all biological matter. The Devourer had grown larger, and now it was moving toward the next inhabited system. On Earth, every Warden facility went into full deployment. The original 3,000 who fought the Council fleet were joined by every other enhanced human in the program. 7,500 Wardens total. It was still a fraction of what the Council could deploy. But Director Helena Cross was not sending conventional forces. Lieutenant Colonel James Volker stood in the deployment bay with his unit. They had been briefed on the Devourer, shown the tactical data, studied the ancient records the Council shared. Every Warden understood what they faced. 3,000 years ago, Volker addressed his warriors. It took the entire galaxy to drive this thing away. Millions of soldiers died. Thousands of ships were sacrificed. The Council barely survived. He paused, looking at the men and women who had volunteered to become something more than human. People who trained for decades for exactly this moment. But the galaxy has something now it did not have then, Volker continued. It has us. We were not built for peace. We were not made for comfort. We were created for this. For the moment when the galaxy needs monsters to fight monsters, the Wardens deployed in transport ships. Vessels modified to carry them close to the Devourer's projected path. The Council established a defensive line around 6 populated systems. 300 warships, 50,000 soldiers from 40 species, and 7,500 human Wardens. The Devourer arrived at the defensive line like a force of nature. A structure so massive it registered as a gravitational anomaly on long-range sensors. Its surface moved with constant activity. Organic tissue and mechanical systems working together in patterns that made no sense. The Council fleet opened fire. Energy weapons. Kinetic projectiles. Everything they had. The Devourer absorbed it all. Every shot that hit its surface was converted into energy that made it stronger. Ships that tried to retreat were caught by tendrils that reached across thousands of kilometers. The Devourer pulled them in, absorbed them. Crew and all, the Council's weapons were useless. That was when the Wardens entered the fight. But they did not attack from outside. They infiltrated. Volker led his unit directly into the Devourer's mass. They penetrated the outer layers, finding themselves in a nightmare landscape. Corridors of living tissue. Mechanical structures that operated on alien logic. And worse, they could feel the presence of absorbed minds. Billions of consciousnesses trapped inside this thing. Stay focused, Volker transmitted to his team through their neural links. Our mission is to find the core, the central intelligence. That is what we destroy. The Wardens moved deeper, fighting through defenses that the Devourer spawned from its own body. Creatures made of its own tissue. Weapon systems that grew from walls. The entity learned from every attack, adapted to every tactic, but the Wardens learned faster. Rachel Ortiz, one of Volker's best fighters, made a discovery. The adaptations follow patterns. It expects us to fight like the species it has consumed, but we are not in its database. It does not understand human tactics. Volker understood immediately. Everyone abandoned standard combat protocols. No formations. No predictable movements. Fight like it is a street brawl. Pure chaos. What followed was warfare the Devourer could not comprehend. The Wardens stopped acting like trained soldiers and started acting like survivors from a death world. They used improvised weapons, exploited weaknesses that should not be exploitable. They sacrificed position for unexpected angles of attack. They survived damage that should kill them and kept fighting. The Devourer tried to adapt, but human chaos had no pattern to predict. Days passed. The Wardens penetrated deeper. Behind them, more units entered the Devourer's mass through different entry points. They were mapping its structure. Finding its critical systems, the cost was high. 3 days into the assault, the first Warden died. Then another. The casualty rate began to climb. 8%, 12%, 15%. But they were succeeding where the ancient war had failed. They were getting closer to the core. On the command ship, Helena watched the biometric data from each Warden. She saw their vitals, their neural activity, the damage their bodies were sustaining and repairing. "We are losing people," General Rake said quietly. "I know," Helena replied. Her voice was tight with emotion she could not show. "But they are winning." Inside the Devourer, Volker's unit fought through the 34th hour of continuous combat. His own body was damaged. His regenerative systems were working at maximum capacity just to keep him functional. But his mind remained sharp. They reached a chamber different from the others, larger. The walls pulsed with energy. And in the center was something that might have been the original intelligence. Not organic, not mechanical. Something older than civilizations, it spoke directly into their minds. Not words. Pure concepts. "You are new, not in the pattern. What are you?" Volker stepped forward. His armor was torn. His skin showed burn marks and cuts that were slowly healing. But he stood tall. "We are human. We are from Earth, and you made a mistake. I have consumed thousands of species. You will be consumed. You will try," Volker agreed. Then, to his team, "Plant the device." The Wardens placed their weapon. Not an explosive. Something humanity developed from the same technology that created them. A quantum destabilizer. It would tear apart matter at the fundamental level. It would also kill everyone within its radius. "You all volunteered knowing this might happen," Volker transmitted. "Anyone who wants to evacuate has 30 seconds. No one moved. 23 warriors stood with him, all damaged, all exhausted. None willing to leave. "Then let us show this thing why humanity breeds monsters," Volker said. The device activated. The Devourer's core began to collapse. But the entity fought back with everything it had. Defenses spawned from every surface. The chamber tried to crush them. The very air became hostile. The Wardens held their ground. They fought the Devourer's final defense. Bought the seconds needed for the device to reach critical mass. On the command ship, Helena watched Volker's biosigns. Watched all 23 signals. They were not retreating. They were holding position even as the Devourer's structure tore apart around them. Sir Reich said, "They are not coming out." Helena said nothing. She just watched the readings. Watched the countdown. The Devourer's core exploded. The detonation propagated through its entire mass. The entity that had existed for millennia began to die, and with it, 247 human Wardens gave their lives to ensure the device completed its work. The Devourer's structure broke apart over the next 6 hours. The Council fleet watched in stunned silence. The threat from their ancient nightmares was gone. Destroyed by a species they had tried to threaten just days. Earlier, Helena stood alone in her office looking at the casualty report. 247 names. The best warriors humanity ever produced. Volunteers who knew they might never come home. She would read every name, remember every face, and she would make sure the galaxy never forgot what they sacrificed. The war was won, but the price would be remembered forever. 3 weeks after the Devourer's destruction, Earth held a memorial ceremony. Representatives from every council species attended. The event took place in a massive amphitheater built specifically for this purpose, open to the sky so that the stars were visible above. Director Helena Cross stood at the center, surrounded by holographic projections of the 247 Wardens who did not return. Each projection showed them as they were before enhancement. Regular humans. People with families, dreams, lives they gave up to protect others. Ambassador Marcus Webb walked to the memorial platform. He carried a data tablet containing every name, every story, every sacrifice. I will now read the names of the fallen, Marcus said into the silence. He started with Lieutenant Colonel James Volker, then Rachel Ortiz, then David Kim, name after name. For each one, he paused. Let the name echo through the amphitheater. Let every delegate present understand that these were not just soldiers. They were people it took 2 hours to read every name. When Marcus finished, he looked up at the assembled delegates. The Valorian Prime, the Vaxian Warcaller. Representatives from species spanning the galaxy. You wanted to understand humanity, Marcus said. You wanted to know why we keep secrets, why we maintain classified programs, why we prepare for wars you think will never come. Now, you understand. We breed monsters not to threaten you, but to defend everyone when your peace is not enough. The Prime rose. Its liquid metal form seemed to shimmer with something that might have been respect. The Council has revised its classification of humanity. You are no longer considered a threat species. You are recognized as a guardian species. The first in 6,000 years, you have earned your autonomy. But we hope you will maintain your commitment to defending Council space when threats emerge. Helena Cross stood and walked to join Marcus. We will honor that commitment. But understand this, we defend the innocent. We will not participate in Council enforcement actions against other species. We will not help you force compliance on worlds that simply want independence. If you want our help, it will be against real threats, not against species who refuse to submit. Several delegates looked uncomfortable, but others nodded in agreement. The smaller species, the ones who had been forced into Council membership, they understood what humanity was saying. After the ceremony, Helena returned to Earth's command center. The remaining wardens had been recalled from the battle site. 7,253 warriors survived. All carried physical and mental scars from what they experienced inside the Devourer. Dr. Amara Singh met Helena in her office. The surviving wardens are undergoing psychological evaluation. Most are handling it well. Some will need extended therapy. A few want to return to service immediately. Give them time, Helena said. They earned it. There is another matter, Amara continued. We have 3,000 new volunteers for the Warden program. Many are family members of the fallen. They want to continue the legacy. Lena closed her eyes. Part of her wanted to shut down the program. The cost was too high. But another part understood the truth. The galaxy was still dangerous. The Devourer might have been destroyed. But there were other threats in the dark zones, other ancient horrors waiting to emerge. Begin the screening process, Helena said quietly, but increase the psychological evaluation requirements. Make sure every volunteer truly understands what they are choosing. In the weeks that followed, humanity's relationship with the Galactic Council transformed. The Council recognized Earth's autonomy formally. No inspections, no oversight, no interference. But humanity also established formal military cooperation agreements. If another existential threat emerged, the Wardens would respond. Several Council species requested permission to study the Warden enhancement process. Helena denied every request. That technology would remain exclusively human. Some species began to fear humanity even more after seeing what the Wardens could do. Others sought alliance. The smaller species especially looked to Earth as a potential protector against Council overreach. The balance of galactic power had shifted. 6 months after the memorial, Lieutenant Colonel James Volker's name was added to a monument on Earth, along with the other 246 who died inside the Devourer. The monument was built on a hill overlooking the ocean, a place where people could come to remember. Carved into the stone base were words, chosen by the survivors. They were bred for war. They chose to be guardians. They died as heroes. Helena visited the monument often. She would stand there for hours, remembering faces, Voices. The moment she gave the order that sent them into the Devourer. The choice that saved billions, but cost so much. One day, General Rake found her there. He stood beside her in silence for a while before speaking. The new class of wardens completed their first round of enhancement. Success rate is 89%. Better than the original program, because we learned from our mistakes, Helena said. Built on experience, survivors from the Devourer mission are training them, passing on what they learned. The next generation will be even more capable. Helena looked at the names on the monument. Do you ever wonder if we did the right thing? Creating the wardens? Turning humans into weapons? Every day, Rake admitted. But then I remember what the Devourer did to that first world. 3 billion people consumed in hours. And I remember that without the wardens, that would have happened to dozens more worlds. Maybe hundreds. Lena nodded slowly. We breed monsters. But we are not monsters. The difference matters. It does, Rake agreed. Far above Earth, in orbital stations and hidden facilities. Thousands of wardens continued their training. Some were veterans of the Devourer fight. Others were newly enhanced, still learning their capabilities. All of them understood their purpose. They were humanity's shield. The force that stood between civilization and the horrors that lurked in the dark spaces between stars. They were volunteers who chose to become something more than human, so that everyone else could remain safely human. In the Galactic Council chambers, the debates continued about humanity's place in galactic affairs. Some species wanted restrictions. Others wanted alliance. The arguments would continue for years, but one thing was certain. No one would threaten Earth again. No one would demand compliance. No one would force humanity to reveal its secrets. Because everyone now understood what happened when you pushed humanity too far. You discovered that they had been preparing for that exact moment. That they had created guardians specifically designed to protect their world. That they had bred monsters. For the day when monsters were needed, the galaxy had declared war on Earth, they learned. Too late that humanity had been preparing for war since. The day they first left their homeworld and saw the truth about the universe and humanity would continue preparing. Continue training. Continue breeding monsters. Because the galaxy was still dangerous. The dark zones still held secrets. And Earth would never again be vulnerable. Director Helena Cross stood before the window of her office, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, threats waited. Ancient weapons. Hostile intelligence. Cosmic horrors that no civilization had faced when they came. Humanity would be ready. The wardens would be waiting. And the galaxy would remember that. Humanity did not start wars, but humanity knew how to finish them.